On your screen right now are the top 5 substances on the DEA's watch list. If they catch you with any of these, you'll pay a very hefty fine. And as you can clearly see, C8H10N402 isn't on there, meaning it's legal. That name I just said a second ago that sounds like an atom bomb is the chemical compound for caffeine. J.G. Quintal is no stranger to substance abuse. The man made a show in college about a bunch of employees who get high during working hours. These characters were the prototypes for a couple of fictional characters that later became household names. But let's put that on pause for a second. 5,000. To be more specific, 5,000 milligrams. This may seem like an insignificant number to you, but trust me, it can be quite lethal. 5,000 to 10,000 is the zone of death when it comes to caffeine. It's rare that someone dies from a caffeine overdose. You can probably drink 9 cups of coffee back to back and the only thing that will happen is your heart pounding violently as though it's being beaten by a rock star's drummer. But if you're an adrenaline junkie and want to spend some days bedridden in a hospital with a bunch of dying people, feel free to try and consume the previously mentioned amount at your own risk, of course. Even though caffeine is considered an upper, Mordecai found himself in this situation all due to the fact that he was down bad for Margaret. And since he's a simp and will do anything to get between some thighs, he actually did a positive thing for once. He decided to work harder. Hard work and Mordecai don't mesh well together in the same sentence. It's the peak definition of an oxymoron. It's like putting oil and water together. They simply don't mix. At first glance, this seems like a pretty harmless episode. As a kid, it probably actually is. But if you think about it, not really. There's 2 things that this episode is really about once you peel back the layers and know it isn't just another instance of a protagonist attempting to get his feathers ruffled. Let me explain.
The Big Dipper.
The episode follows the main characters doing whatever it takes to get 2 tickets to see Rigby's favorite band, Fist Pump. At first, Mordecai wants no part, but once he sees that his crush is a fan of the band, he's willing to do whatever it takes to be in her vicinity. This is the 3rd episode in the entire series, but trust me, this is just one of the many times Mordecai finds himself almost dying for some cake, and I ain't talking about some red velvet. So him and his boys scheme up ways to make money. They ask Benson for some extra chores and all goes well until they realize that the initial price for the tickets have gone up, cause apparently everyone in their town is invested in seeing this band that has a name that might as well be an innuendo. Now the boys are sad because they've been working overtime, but they're being underpaid. I think this is the first and only time in the entire series where these guys actually did their job properly. Well, sorta. All of this changes when they're greeted by a coffee bean and an Asian man who offered them a sketchy contract. A contract that they don't even bother to glance at. J.G. Quintal is obviously highlighting the fact that you can literally sell your life away simply because you failed to look at the fine print. Everything comes with a price, but of course in today's day and age, it's rare for anyone to bother reading terms and conditions. You have to also realize that this is a kid show, but regular show is known for beating around the bush when it comes to adult themes. 2 things that stuck out through this entire episode is Mordecai's love for the opposite gender. Like, I get it, he likes Margaret, but I only realized now after all these years that he wanted to fondle her melons. There's a line in this episode where Rigby calls him out for only being interested because Mordecai likes lady pecs. That line pulled in Aladdin when I was younger. It completely went over my head. The second thing is that I don't think the coffee in this episode actually represents coffee. Like I said earlier, this is a show that was made for younger audiences, a show airing on Cartoon Network, and not Adult Swim. Coffee is basically a code name for uppers. These 2 are basically taking uppers in order to function at a higher, more optimum level, or so they thought. I'm saying this because coffee is a stimulant, right? And considering what we know about regular show now, this isn't too far off and far-fetched. Like, I mean, in later seasons, we come to learn that Benson has a wing problem. And now that we're adults, we all know what the wings represent. Obviously, this is regular show, bizarre things happen in practically every episode, but this is just my interpretation of the entire thing. Plus, considering that the show is created by J.G. Quintal, it's more than likely. Like I said before, the guy has an entire short he made in college about people on drugs. Moral of the story, don't simp for baddies and don't do drugs, I guess.